so I just got home, and the first thing I did was wash my hands because they felt dirty, and then I was gonna grab my phone out of my purse, but my phone wasn't in my purse because it was charging, because it was dead, which is good because if I only had 4%, if I only had 4% battery, it would not have been able to film this video, but I just had such a time, and I don't know why my life is like this, but I know, like, when I'm feeling a certain way, if I go out, just things like this will happen, and you might think, well, she does it to herself, and honestly, yeah, same. I think that too. A lot of the times I do it to myself. Do, always a funny joke. But yeah, I just live in the chaos, and that's just how it is. This card, this fucking Optimum card, it was sitting on the counter because I took it out of my purse because I wasn't going to use my boyfriend's credit card for the food, even though he said I could, but I just didn't because I just got paid and I could afford it. If I couldn't afford it, I would have used his card. But yeah, so I went out to the park and I smoked some weed, because, I don't know, it just makes it easier, but, like, harder at the same time for different reasons, but anyways, we're all just trying to fucking survive. Let me get into the story. So I go to the park, sit for a bit, and then I'm leaving, and I'm going to Shoppers to get bacon because they only had bacon ends at Nestor's, which is fine, and probably would have worked for cooking, but I wasn't sure, and Nathan's working, so I figured safest bet is to just get regular bacon, so I had to go to Shoppers, but I dropped everything off here first, and then I went down to the park, and because I went there first to get the other stuff, and then I went down to the park, and then I was walking to Shoppers from the park, and I was just thinking about the way people dressed, because today I've been feeling like very uncomfortable in like my clothing, which I think a lot of people relate to that feeling, but maybe not obsess over it. I think a lot of my behaviors are just a little bit obsessive, which monkey see, monkey do. Even though do as I say and not as I do, but that's a whole separate tangent that has nothing to do with this story. Anyways, I'm just thinking about like what people are wearing, and one thought that sticks out in particular is the thought of if everyone's wearing dark clothes out like on a day like today, because it's fall now, and then you see someone in very bright clothing, they stick out quite a bit. And especially the people around where I spend my time, they're just people, you know, they are out for a reason, like that they have no control over, or, you know, even if that's for your sanity, but I just mean in the sense of like, they go to work, they're at the park, or they're kind of walking to and from, and that also has to do with the time of day that I'm out, because I'm not usually out at this time of day. It was, when I was out, it was like 6 to 6:30. And then, so I was thinking about that and pondering and whatever, and then I was walking towards the Shoppers, so I just crossed the street, and I was past where most of the people were, and then there was a girl coming towards me and two guys, and it didn't look like it at first, but then they walked closer to each other, so I knew that the girl was separate and the two guys were together, and I was walking like on the very inside, the right of the sidewalk, and they, instead of like, when I first saw them, instead of like moving behind her or moving in front of her, they just walked at her pace, moved over to each other, And then I was like, I just kept walking forward and nobody was moving. So then I had to like go around, and I went like on the outside of the sidewalk to go around them. And I was kind of just like, and honestly, I don't blame them. Like, why would you get out of the way for someone on the street? Especially in a place like Vancouver. Like, you don't owe anyone anything. And that's the thing. That's why I can't be mad at it. That's why, like, I just brush it off, because they don't know my pain that I'm going through, and that's fine. So then I get to Shoppers, and I just go straight for the bacon, and I grab the bacon, and I go into the lineup, and I'm standing a reasonable distance away from the guy ahead of me. Neither of the self-checkouts were being used. And the guy ahead of me, the girl behind the counter, was like, you can use the self-checkout, but the guy ahead of me, it was like an old white guy, so he wanted to like be with the person. But the guy behind him was a younger white guy, and he went to the self-checkout, and then there was a guy, and so then I was just standing there because the old white guy like went back into the way. And like, he wasn't being assuming or anything, but it was just like, I didn't have the mental energy to just like push past him, so I was like, well, I'll just wait until either he's there or like whatever happens. And then the guy behind me like goes past us, and he's like, oh, excuse me, because I was already standing to the side, and then he walks past me and is like, excuse me, mister. And so the guy moves and he goes to the other self-checkout, and I was just like, okay, I'm waiting. Like, that's fine, but at the same time kind of annoying, because I wish I was at that self-checkout, because then I would already be done by now. Maybe if I was a bit sooner at Shoppers, I wouldn't have had the ordeal I had at the elevator. So I finally get the bacon, because the guy goes to the person, and then those two that went ahead of me, the one guy was taking a long time, and then the guy who brushed past me was like catching up to him, and he ended up finishing first. So then I went to that one. I get the bacon, and then if I hadn't went back to this, I would have missed an ordeal that I went through. And then the fucking Optimum card. I'm pretty sure I showed that at the beginning of this. I'm pretty sure I had forgotten it. And I like was digging around in my purse, and then I felt like an idiot because there was already 2 people behind me waiting in line. And so I was just like, okay, I'll just pay, whatever. And so then I go to pay, and I go to scan. My dumb high ass went to scan my Visa on where you scan the Optimum card, and I was just like, I moved it, tapped it, because it wasn't even ready to be tapped yet. Like, it was just kind of one of those, like, whatever. And I tap it, and I take the bacon, and I leave, and I just miss... No, I crossed right away, and there was a family in front of me, and then a girl with a bike. Oh, and that's when I was thinking again about clothing, because I was actually seeing a lot of people who were dressed very cool. And then I was like, I wish I was dressed cooler. I wish, But I don't want to look any sort of way if I'm going where people know me, because everybody likes to know you. I mean, I'm so fucking assuming of other people. So I just am so assuming that people see those things in me from... I can tell, though. Like, fucking... There are some people who are just all about themselves. And I can be, but I'm not just that. And there are some people who are just that, because I think everybody is to an extent. Yeah. And then the elevator. The final ordeal. So I go in, and when I get in, there's like 3 people ahead of me, and I could have been in because 4 people are allowed on the elevator, but I just let them go in, and I was gonna catch the next one, and then there's someone outside their door. And I'm just talking to myself like a fucking crazy person. I'm insane. This is already almost 10 minutes, and I'm gonna upload the whole thing to YouTube without watching it, because... Okay. they're probably out of distance that they can hear me now, unless they're just listening to me, which would be very creepy. The elevator. So the three people who... Oh, and one of the three people... I'm gonna go sit. I can just hear the creaking outside and it's making me self-conscious like a little idiot. One of the three people going onto the elevator was one of the guys at the Shoppers, and it was the guy who's taking longer, whose like till thing I didn't end up using. So I thought that was funny. And then I go upstairs. Oh no, wait. I get back to there and he's there. Now I'm just not making sense because I'm paying attention to something else and not just what I'm saying. So then I'm waiting, and then a guy comes and waits next to me, and the elevator opens. There's this big buff dude in the elevator, and it's going down to the parking. So it goes down, and like, meanwhile, neither of us have said anything. I didn't say a single word to anybody when I was out. During this entire time when all of these things are happening, I've not said a word. And so we're just standing there, and I hadn't said a word yet, so I didn't say anything. And then when it comes back up, finally, it was taking like a long time. I think objectively for both of us, it felt like a long time. Because it's usually not, I've never had to wait that long for the elevator. And again, it's just probably because of when I'm out during the day, and it's just not a high trafficked time. So we're waiting, comes up again, and there's two people in it now, and the other one's still coming down. It hasn't even come down yet. And there's two people in there who, they're like, oh no, this is the ground floor, and they have a bunch of shit, like big bins and things, and so like we weren't gonna fit. So me and this guy who's waiting, another old white guy, coincidentally. But a different old white guy. That would have been weird. What is that noise? I don't care. Let me finish the story because this video is already 13 minutes. Just stream of consciousness bullshit. And then two people behind us lined up, and another two people. They're coming in like one at a time. No, it was two people who came in with a dog, and then a guy, and then a girl behind us. And then, so the one elevator finally comes, opens, the people in it leave, and then the guy who I was waiting with the longest, he like gestured for me to go on, and I said thank you. So I did. That was the only thing that I said when I was out, was thank you. Got in the elevator, hit the button, he got in and stood in one corner, and then the other two guys who had the dog came and stood in the front corners, and we were all just standing forward silently on the elevator, as you are in elevators. Like, that's the thing. Is that why they had elevator music? Can we bring back elevator music, please? Or is that just more awkward because it makes you like conscious of the time that's moving or whatever? That's another tangent. And then I finally get home and I wash my hands, and that's where we started this story. And I'm gonna clean up and attempt to play some Mario and watch a whole bunch of D'Angelo Wallace, because I'll probably just get, well, I already have a baseline for like what he's like, and then seeing his opinions on things are interesting because they're not things that I would have. He thinks about it in a different way, but in a way that when he explains it, it's easy to understand, which is why he gets millions of views, is because he actually puts in the effort to do good content, to make good content. And that's my plan, and then I'm gonna go meet Nathan. My poor sweet boy Nathan. he's entangled himself with me now, and I feel bad. Like, the thing is with Gabbiana, everybody uses her name for fucking clout or whatever. It's like, you're not that influential, bitch. If everyone has some, no one has any, you know? But if we realize the type of influence we have, we could all make a difference. It's so funny. We're just all being distracted by the shiny screen. Except the people who kind of understand, but then they just feel hopeless. And I don't blame them. I feel hopeless. I'm not doing shit about shit. If anything, I'm just perpetuating issues. I try not to, though. I try to, if I can have a conversation with someone, even if that means I'm the ignorant one. In fact, I probably, although, albeit more uncomfortable conversations, those are the ones that, like, make you see the world differently and make you understand perspective. And it's all about perspective and nuance. Anyways, now this video is almost 20 minutes, and I only have 19 minutes worth of storage, so I should just end it.